Chapter 26. Thick Brown Slime. Fantastical tales were Dad's specialty. That means Dad loved to tell fantasy stories. However, this one he struggled to believe. So whatever Elfie's going to tell him, he's going to struggle to believe it, okay? With some prompting, that means with some encouragement from Raj, Elfie told his dad the whole story. The dentist's visit to the school, the special mummy's toothpaste that burned through stone, the tooth snatching happening every night, being chased by the entire town, and finally having all his teeth taken out. Dad's disbelief turned to anger when Elfie took out the false teeth and held them up to the candlelight. "When I get my hands on that dentist," shouted Dad before he plunged into a coughing and spluttering fit. Holding his dad, Elfie declared, "This is why I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to upset you." Elfie's father looked deep into his son's eyes. "I am more upset you didn't tell me, son. We are a team, aren't we? You and me." Elfie nodded. He was afraid his voice would crack with emotion if he spoke. "You're my pup, my little pup," continued Dad. "And I would do anything for my little pup. I would die for you if I had to." A tear welled in Elfie's eyes. Even Raj was bubbling, that means even Raj was crying and had a big old blow of his nose on his sleeve. Soon the pair had helped Dad into his chair, and he wheeled himself into the next room to inspect the final and most gruesome, most disgusting piece of the puzzle. The eyeball. Thankfully, by now it had stopped twitching and wiggling. However, it had left a trail of thick brown slime all over the sheet where it had travelled. The three faces peered in to inspect it by candlelight. "The strangest thing is," began Elfie, "I swear I was awake all night. So how could the tooth have been switched with this without me knowing?" Dad thought long and hard before replying. "You must have nodded off at some point, son." "No," said the boy. Elfie was absolutely sure. "I didn't. And I kept checking under the pillow all night. In fact, I checked just before Raj came in and it was still there." "You shut the window behind me," added Raj. "Just after that freezing gust of wind," Elfie thought aloud. "Yes," agreed Raj. He inspected the window. "And look, it's still locked." Then all three fell deadly silent. Out of the gloom, Dad whispered, "Then whoever or whatever did this must still be in the bungalow." Because they locked the window, right? So the thing cannot exit the bungalow. They must still be in the bungalow. None of them moved the muscles. All of them are very scared now. "In fact, it could still be in this room," he whispered. Oh dear. 3 sets of eyes darted around in the dark. If this was true, where could it be hiding? The room was cramped, that means very crowded. There were only a couple of pieces of furniture. It was not ideal for a game of hide and seek, so it's not a perfect place to play hide and seek here. With his eyes, Dad indicated the old wooden wardrobe standing at the corner of the room. So Dad thought that maybe the person or whoever is hiding in the wardrobe, okay? Elfie started to tiptoe over to it, holding the candle. His body weight landed on a loose floorboard and it creaked loudly. Dad put his finger up to his lips, shh, and Elfie rebalanced his weight quickly. With 2 more silent steps, he had his hand onto the wardrobe door. Dad nodded his head gently to indicate that his son should open it. The suspense, that means the feeling of being anxious about what might happen next, the suspense was too much for Raj, who was already cowering, that means crouching down in fear, behind Dad's wheelchair and had now closed his eyes. The boy pulled the handle sharply. Something flew towards him. It was his anorak, his jacket. The sleeve must have been caught in the door. After taking a breath, Alfie pushed his few items of clothing aside. But there was nothing evil lurking in the cupboard. Aside from an old unwashed football sock, that is. It had been lying there so long, it now had yellow and green mold growing on it. Throughout, Raj's eyes remained tightly shut, his face grimacing, that means twisting in fear. So Raj is very scared. Dad tugged at the news agent's arm and he startled like a wild horse. So Dad nudged the news agent's arm. And then he got very shocked, okay, like a wild horse, leaping into the air as his whole body contorted and fright. Ah! He neighed. Shh! Shush, Dad. And with his eyes, he pointed to the bed. Raj pointed to himself and assumed an expression which said me. So Dad pointed to the bed, and then he pointed to the bed, indicating that Raj should be the one to check the bed now. So Raj pointed himself and assumed an expression which said, Me? You mean me? I go and check the bed? Dad nodded with an expression which said, Yes, you. The news agent shook his head. He don't want to go and check. He's very scared. He put his hands together in prayer, begging Dad for it not to have to be him. Alfie rolled his eyes. He stepped forward and gently pushed the cowardly, the very timid news agent aside. Pulling up the sheet, Alfie bent down with the candle in his hand to look underneath the bed. It was dark under there, and even with the candlelight, he squinted as he tried to make anything out in the shadows. Like most boys, Alfie never bothered to clean under his bed. So there were long forgotten pieces of Lego and a pair of dirty old underpants, that means panties, loitering there. All looked ghostly grey, smoothed in a thick covering of dust, so it was very dusty. Alfie sighed. Again, there seemed to be nothing evil hiding there. Then, under the bed, out of the darkness, two eyes opened and fixed the boy with a deadly black stare. Ah! Cried Alfie. The owner of those eyes then blew Alfie's candle out. Then the room was all but pitch black. A shadowy figure rose from under the bed. Without stopping to unlock the window, it flew straight through it with a deafening roar. That means a very, very loud roar. It moved at such speed that shards or smashed glass exploded out of the room. So the person went through the window, so it didn't bother opening the window, went through the window and broke all the window glass. Alfie hurried to the window frame. He needed to catch a glimpse of whoever or whatever had been hiding under his bed. The boy looked out into the dark night. Something rocketed down the road and then soared up and up into the sky. Higher and higher it rose until it flew through the clouds. Soon all that was left behind was a trail of black smoke. Okay? Alfie closed his eyes. Surely they were deceiving him. Surely that means he couldn't believe his eyes. Opening his eyes again, he saw that the trail was still there. This was no nightmare. This was real. Alfie had no option. He had to believe. He had to believe what he saw. So this looks like Miss Root, right? So Miss Root is the culprit behind it. The end.